Hello, this is Martin Willis, and this is a do-it-yourself video. Basically, years ago, I owned a antique restoration shop and worked in that for many years. And then I fell in love with mahogany boats, Chris Crafts and alike. So I started doing restoration of the boats, and I really prided myself on doing a really nice varnish finish, and that's what this is about. And just a little backstory about what I'm going to be showing here is I actually had a dory wash up on the shore where I was living. And I put, ads in the local Facebook pages and Craigslist and all that, just saying I found a dory. If you own this dory, let me know. And so several months went by, maybe I think perhaps even a year went by. Never heard from anyone. So I decided to restore the boat. I kept looking at the wood, thinking that was nice wood. There was mostly mahogany, and this is a case where you could actually remove the wood from the boat and work on it that way, which is of course a lot easier. But anyway, it was very weathered, and so I'm going to start and go through the process of how I did that, starting right now. Basically, you want to make sure that there is no finish left on the wood. Whether in this particular case it was just weathered, so the finish was gone, but stripping it off to make sure all of it's off. Now if it's painted, it's going to be a whole different problem, because paint oftentimes gets right into the grain of the wood. So you'd want to start off, how I start off is with an Orbital sander, and a nice quality Orbital sander. Now keep in mind, all this information will be below in the notes below this. But you want to start off with 80 grit, and you work with 80 grit, then you drop it down to 100 grit, and then 120, and then 150. But you want to make sure that it's a nice color, all the wood color comes back. And if there's cases where there's seams, you want to get in there, hand sand it with a little, piece of paper folded up. So using the Orbital sander, you start out with that first. And then you go down to hand sanding. You use a rubber block, and you start out with 120 grit on the hand sanding. And what the reason for this is, you want to make sure that, first of all the surfaces are smooth. And then you also want to make sure that there's no orbital rings from the sander. Now, this is the first I did with walnut stain right here, Watco walnut stain. I like to use red mahogany a lot of times on mahogany because it looks so nice, but this had a piece of original oak in it, so I wanted it to blend. So this is a dark walnut stain, and you wipe it, the residue off that after 15-20 minutes. You let it set for at least a day. Now you want to start out with varnish. When you use the varnish, I use Epifanes varnish. It's very high quality, high gloss, and you want to make sure that you mix it 50-50 with paint thinner. You want to make sure it's nice and thin, and you just put on a very, very light coat to begin with. Now, it'll look dull. It won't look like too much of anything, but you want to make sure that after you do this, that you go over this with a 220. It's a real light grit sandpaper, very lightly. You don't want to go through the finish, and just to get the knock it down and get it ready for a next coating of varnish, which at that point you start using it at 75% varnish and 25% thinner. And you just build up. Here's a situation where it's built up a little more, but it takes a while before you start seeing the beauty of the gloss. And again, this is, you just let it set for a day in between, and you go back to it, lightly sand it once it's completely dry. And there are some variables. If you have a area where it's high humidity, it takes a lot longer. Here it is, freshly, lightly sanded, ready for another coat. There's 220. And so you want to make sure you get it ready. Again, you prep, and here we are with several coats on it. You always want to do this in a dust-free environment for the last coatings, to make sure there's no dust. But here we go. This is several layers on it. And I like to put up to 12 coats I do believe on this particular project, I put about 6 or 8 coats. But basically, you just have to have a lot of patience and make sure you check out below all the notes that I'm providing. And I think when you get done, you're going to sit back and you're going to look at a beautiful finish that will last for many years. And, if you get a couple of years in and you see some wear on it, you can lightly sand it and put a coat over it. Again, just follow all the instructions as far as being dust-free, sanding with a grain and all that. But anyway, this is I believe this is at about 4 or 5 coats. And now you will see where we get to the finish. I put all the wood back into the boat, and we get to see what that looks like all assembled and back together. Here it is here. This is your finished product. Like I said, it's about 6 or so coats of it. And that's the boat all put together. And it was a nice before and after. I really enjoyed working on this one. Well, I hope this is helpful. And for any of you out there that are looking to do some mahogany, don't forget to look at the instructions below.